Today on Compound Interest, I have, Mike, I have been following you. We have Mike Spadafora, Ward 14. You grew up, born and raised in Ward 14.
Absolutely.
You know it like the back of your hand. It's pretty much a built-out suburban area, correct?
Yep.
But you know what? You are, and not only do you have a great voice, you have a voice for radio too and TV. I'm telling you,
not a face, but a voice for sure.
But you've got such a voice on council. I think people are secretly behind the scenes, and I'm no longer a resident of Hamilton, but secretly behind the scenes, we're just champion, your cause, and you're saying things that are on our minds, and we want to thank you for it. It's very interesting what you're doing there. But tell me something a little bit. Let's talk about how would you describe yourself as a you can say Ward 14, but you're as a councillor in Hamilton.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on the show today, and I appreciate the words, and I think a lot of the stuff I say people resonate with because it's the conversations I have with people in the city, right? So it's not, a lot of that is I believe in those things I'm saying too, but a lot of it comes from just interacting with citizens of the city, right? So a little bit about myself. Born and raised in Ward 14. My parents came here from Italy. I got, family was super important to us growing up, still is now. Catholic, I think that's important too. I know it doesn't get talked a lot, but the faith helps me. I think just having whatever your faith is, I think is important. That's really more important in my life now. But I care about the city. My ties are here, my family's here, I live here, my friends, and I just want to see the city get back to a place where you can be proud of it.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of dropped off a bit, and hopefully we can get back to a better place.
Yeah, you said something, and I was going to ask this question, and I'll ask it now. What are the top three things that you're hearing, like from your, from Ward 14 people, but even from Hamilton as a whole? What are you hearing?
Yeah,
the top three, would you say, that you hear over and over again?
If we're talking about actual items, there's a general conversation that happens, but definitely, the property taxes are top of mind for people because obviously affordability right now is, on everyone's mind across the country, across the world. So property taxes definitely, and it's not just property taxes. What am I getting for my property tax? My property tax are rising, which is, not fine. But if they are going to rise, can you show me my return on investment like you would anywhere else, right? So definitely property taxes. I think crime is definitely top of mind for a lot of people. But then the next one I would say is just, where are we going? What's the plan for the city? What do we want to get from our city? What do we want to get for our municipal government? What is our municipal government doing for us? And that's one that I struggle with probably more than all of them, because you don't want to feel that way. If you're proud to be a Hamiltonian, you want to spend your time here, you want to raise your family here, that's not the feeling you're looking for. You're looking to be connected to your city, willing to fight for your city, and being proud of being a part of the city. And I think we're losing a bit of that.
I describe you, maybe you self-describe yourself. You're like the champion of cost cutting, right? to some degree, right?
To some degree, for sure.
Yeah, a little bit, right? You've uncovered some things.
Fiscal responsibility, I would say, would be more than cost cutting. I think you got to have you can't just cut. You just got to have a plan for where we shouldn't be spending money.
Where do you see the biggest leakage? Where do you see the biggest inefficiency? What would you say in Hamilton right now? Or all municipalities.
To me,
you can speak to all municipalities too, if you want.
Yeah, I think public sector. The biggest thing with public sector is in a time of if you look at it as a business, when you're not making money, you're not looking to expand operations. You're looking to make yourself as efficient as possible to take on the rainy days. We've hired close to over, I think, 800 full-time employees since I've been elected. So 2022, 3.5 years. So and if you look at what's happened in the world over the last 3 years with the affordability crisis and the cost of living, you would think those numbers would be going the other way. I'm not saying we would reduce numbers, but you definitely wouldn't think you'd see the growth we're seeing. In our first year as a council, we hired more people in that 1 year than the previous 4 years. That previous term of council, we hired more in 1 year. So when you start looking at things like that, and I think the other big issue for us, we take on files that are not our responsibility. So I'm not saying those files aren't important, but we invested, I think, in 1 year close to $200 million in housing, homelessness, which is a very important issue. But it's not our file.
Yeah.
It's a provincial file.
Yes.
So yeah, although the provincial government, the federal government, they gave us some money. I think they gave us 60 million this one year, and we spent 140.
Jesus.
So when you think about municipal property taxes being spent on a file that is not our responsibility, I understand we have a responsibility to our citizens and to the unhoused population and people that are on the brink of losing their homes. But all we're doing is bankrupting other people by using, raising property taxes to cover the bill for the provincial and federal government. We can't spend that kind of money.
Yeah.
And now here we are 4 years later. We've spent every dollar we have in our reserves, so we don't have any, our reserves are gone. And I don't know that we've accomplished anything. Yeah, we've increased our shelter beds, but we're at capacity.
We're at capacity anyway.
We built an outdoor shelter and it's full.
Yeah.
And we've spent all this money, City of Hamilton property tax money, to do it. So, we're taking on climate change, and it's not a debate as to whether climate change is important or not. It's whether or not it's a file that we should be focused on as a municipality, and we shouldn't be. Roads, sidewalks, parks, rec centers.
Yeah.
That's what we should be doing. Police, right?
Yeah. So there was a vote for that full-time employee. A cap on full-time employees, right? I was surprised it was 12-2. I can't even imagine what the two that voted against that. When you're telling me these numbers, because we're all looking at it too. We're like, there is a shrinkage, right? Like we've seen it in our industry. There's a shrinkage, the construction industry. Like the employees, we could potentially lose 100,000 jobs in the next little while in Ontario because of what's happening. We're talking about that further, but I can't understand that people wouldn't have. It was a runaway train with employees. I can't imagine that there was two people that were against that whole plan, and
it was hard to understand. Like, all I was trying to do when I moved that motion was I wasn't looking to remove staff. All I wanted to say is, like, we've hired 350 people in the last 2 years. Let's have a hiring freeze. We don't need anybody else. Let's just slow down, maybe reorganize and reprioritize our current staff and focus them where we need them most. If we have an issue in this corner, then let's shift some people around. Obviously, everybody knows the construction world has been decimated.
Yes.
So if we have people that are working in roles that are not as busy as they normally were, let's repurpose one or two of those people, even if it's in a 6-month, a 12-month term, instead of hiring a full-time employee. Like, the cost that comes with a full-time employee, people say, well, they're making $100,000. Well, that's their salary.
Yeah.
You start working in the benefits and all that, like, the cost on the books is $130.
Yeah, no,
it's not $100.
No,
so you start adding all those costs up.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Where are you getting the money from?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to the taxpayers.
Yeah.
We're going to the reserves. And
that's crazy.
At what point are you going to stop?
Well, look, and you know what? Like, you must have thought when they had, I don't know about I just caught the tail end of the Hamilton Poet. You must have thought you were in an SNL skit. when somebody discovered that or introduced having the poet, right? Like, you must have thought, this is SNL worthy.
Yeah, I mean,
come on.
And it's interesting because as soon as you say something or vote a certain way, right away you get, you don't care about the arts.
Yeah. Yes, I know.
Well, no, that has nothing to do with it. The symbolic thing around the poet, it had nothing to do with we're bringing in that specific poet or hey, it was only $25,000. It's how much do we need? And why is this important? We have a Hamilton Public Library that does a ton of stuff.
Yes.
Has a pretty big budget. Why isn't our poet tied into their budget? They couldn't find $25,000 in their budget to bring a poet in. So it was symbolic for me that this kind of showed people we really don't have any restraint. We just spend. We want a poet. All right, put it in. 25. Yeah, don't worry about it. We want to do this. We want to do that. It's less about the poet and more about the fact that I don't know that we respect the taxpayers' dollar. At least I don't feel like we have. I mean, I've tried to, but the poet thing was, I guess you could call it political. That's when you start seeing some politics in the room.
Yeah,
right?
Look, there's no question the arts, and I was on the board for the Hamilton Art Gallery for years. I saw the monies that flowed from the city there, and there a lot of support for the arts. Opera Hamilton, but again, a lot of these institutions just couldn't do it anymore, and sometimes you have to kind of, it's just, it's market driven half the time. But,
Yeah.
but I love your idea of like stay in your lane. Like this is kind of crazy. I know, I guess it's so loosey goosey. Like we're about parks, recreation, the life of the Hamiltonian. I can see where they embrace this poet, but yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think this is now, we have to get back to brass tacks, and I love what you're doing. I think that is awesome. Now let's talk about building permits and things like that. Okay. All right. let's throw this one on the table.
Yeah.
Are you embarrassed? Are you embarrassed with the planning process in Hamilton? Like when you compare to, Alberta, right? Like let's call Calgary 35 days for a building permit.
Yeah,
and maybe those numbers are cooked. I'm not saying they're not. But
I wouldn't be able to dispute the numbers or say they're real.
Yeah, okay,
what I could say is I don't know if I'd use the word embarrassed. I'm disappointed.
Okay. Yeah.
Because again, if I try to simplify things and look at everything from a business. So if we're running a business at the City of Hamilton and building permits have fees that are tied to revenue, for me as, say, I own the City of Hamilton, it's my business, all those fees, the sooner I collect them, the better it is. The sooner I issue a permit, the better it is. Why? People go to work. Mm-hmm. The house gets built. The house closes. People start paying property taxes. I get my permit fees quicker. I get my development charges quicker. I get my property tax that is every single year. The sooner we build, the faster our revenue goes up. The longer it takes to approve a development, the longer it takes for us to start collecting money. So it's like, it's double-sided. It's embarrassing. It's disappointing. It scares businesses away. If you're a developer and a builder and you're not from Hamilton and you come into Hamilton, you buy a piece of property and you go through the planning process, you're probably saying, I'm gonna maybe shift my focus elsewhere where I can get my stuff done quicker. Because as a municipality, we want those houses built so we can start collecting revenue. Well, I'm assuming a developer, a builder wants to get houses built so they can move on to their next project.
Yeah.
They got to collect money. They got to pay off their bank loans or whatever they have, and they want to move on. They got other land they want to move to. Not to mention the fact that we need housing. I mean, I think we need housing. I hear we need housing. Everybody talks that way. You being in the real estate game, you probably know better than I do. But there's no reason why it can't get better. It needs to get better. There's enough technology nowadays. Everything in the world is technology. I'm still, I would consider myself an old school guy, even though I'm not that old yet. But technology should be able to make that process seamless. And I think it's on us too as a city to say, like, this is important. Yeah. And we want to do our best to serve our customer. We're in the customer service business. That's what we do. Yeah. Our taxpayers are our customers, and so are businesses, and we got to do a better job. Yeah,
I asked Perplexity today how long it takes the planning process in Hamilton. It said 31 months.
Next question.
Yeah, next. but let's talk about, because I want to talk about this a little bit, because yes, you're serving a multitude of masters here. You're serving the taxpayer, and you have a customer coming in, a business, and a development is a business. Maybe it's 18 months, 24 months, whatever it is, but it's still a business. They're marketing, they're developing land and selling it and doing that. Now the thing is, you said something, the faster, we can get the income. Like I've been to council meetings and I propose sites and whatever. And the minute a planner or somebody says, this is going to mean more tax dollars, whatever, I see the gallery of people that are in that ward or whatever, like they're just like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like there's jeers and whatever about this, that we're going to be putting, helping increase the tax base, right? So how do you, like, you got the NIMBYism, not in my backyard, right? You got a balance between NIMBY and that, and you got people yelling and screaming about taxes, and we're going to be building, right, and helping to relieve the tax burden, but it seems to be a constant disconnect all the time. Why?
Yeah, it's challenging, because the other part that I think's missing too is we don't talk a lot about the provincial piece, which is they really make the rules. I mean, we can add on to the rules. We can create rules at the city within a certain lane, but at the end of the day, when it comes to housing, like planning, the Planning Act is a provincial legislation. So, we have to follow that. I think we can do a better job of not making it even more restrictive. I think sometimes it's like we're looking to, stop the development for whatever reason. But I think the crossroads is people don't want things built in their neighborhood because they've lived there for 60 years and they're used to it. Then we have, but at the same time, we want our taxes to go down. And the biggest problem in Hamilton is we rely heavily on residential tax base. We don't, the industrial commercial in Hamilton has declined.
Yes.
And that's a big issue, right? Because we can only go to the property tax pot for so long. And until we get more commercial industrial businesses coming to Hamilton, that's the only place we're going to go. And then the issue is when our surrounding municipalities can offer cheaper rates for commercial and industrial, it's hard to attract those those businesses. Now, having our airport, having our the ports, like we should be a destination, and we are. We've done some really good projects. We've got some cool projects coming. An Italian company that just came in. Like we've been able to attract some big players, but been able to get our lessen the load on the residential property tax. We need more of that. And I think sometimes we get lost in, we're doing favors for these big rich companies. And I think we get lost in that. And as long as we can balance, yes, they are big, profitable companies, but they're the ones that create jobs. They're the ones that have the money to pay our DC fees when they develop. So you got to balance it out.
Yeah, it is, because there's a thing about oversight, right? Like, and then it's going too far. And I don't think there's this unanimous sentiment that people understand where the revenue is coming from on council. Because, look, I'm not speaking for developers and what have you, but there's some legitimate, projects, that people are now forced to go to the OLT. And how do you feel about the OLT? And do you think look, there's very few places in North America that have some sort of a system like that. In the U.S., when I mention something like the OLT, they think, "What is going on?" This goes judiciary, and everybody's afraid to go there, so they force people to the table.
Yep.
You see a lot better. Like in the U.S., it's a way different thing. I lived there for 17, 18 years. I saw a lot of planning in Illinois and what was going on. It's a very different environment. And do you feel the OLT's outlived its usefulness, or?
I think the hard part with the OLT is,
for those of you, it's the Ontario Land Tribunal.
Yes.
It's the last, it's where you
last
can
stop.
Yeah, the last stop where you can kind of go and if
plead your case and get your development either moving forward or hit the end of the road. The hard part is you'd wish we didn't need it. You wish that when we're looking to build cities anywhere, not just City Hall, but when we're looking to build a municipality, a place where people are going to call home, or it's a place where they're going to go to work, you'd want to be able to have a working relationship between developers and municipalities. And I think we've gotten to a place where the developers are really bad people, and the city, we need to do whatever we can to protect our city. So instead of working together, I think we've driven a wedge that if we didn't have the OLT, I don't know what we'd do. Until we get back to a place where residents, municipalities, and developers are working together for the betterment of the city. And I think every one of those groups needs to give a little. Developers want to maximize profits. That's what businesses do. You want to make money. Municipalities want to protect their interests from a city perspective, and residents don't want things to change in their neighborhood because they're used to it. Every one of those groups has to give something up a little bit. I'm not saying developers got to come and do stuff for free. That's not their mandate. Is to build something for a customer and get paid to do it and make money. Perfect. But everybody needs to give a little.
Yeah, can you imagine if there was a system where, like, for instance, and I know you're all built up, but can you imagine, because the taxpayer doesn't see anything. They see something, maybe it affects traffic, it's a big building, I don't know, shades
shadows
in there, whatever it is, right? God bless. But at the end of the day, can you imagine a system where, you'd say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Resident of Ward 14, we're going to put this, this 200 unit building in this spot, and you're going to see a reduction in your tax taxes directly. It's not going to just go to the global pool.
Yep.
I think there has to be some sort of a win. You know what I mean? Because you don't see it. I'm going to go with pitchforks. I don't want anything to change, right? I'm going to go with pitchforks because there's no benefit to me. What's in it for me? And that's the other thing. I think the WIFM, in terms of politics is completely out the window. People just do not see, their value for their dollar, and they don't see what's in it for me. Let's talk about development charges. Now, this is, City of Burlington is talking about a 2-year waiver. Del Duca did it in Vaughan, 50%. I'll tell you, it moved the needle in Vaughan, and it was only a short period of time. We've seen some activity in Vaughan as well. There's been resistance in Hamilton with the DCs. We had a time, we've had decades of no DCs downtown. And I will say this, I don't know if it moved the needle in downtown. So I think you actually have a proof of concept there that's hard to refute. It did bring some stuff down there, but did it do anything dramatic? Now we're going to spread it out, make it kind of even, for the rest of the communities. Where's your stand on that development charge piece?
I think it's hard, and I think it's extremely hard when we compare ourselves to other cities. And I would say at times it's unfair for the city of Hamilton. And again, I'll go back to.
But Mike, we did it for downtown for a long, long time.
Yeah, we did.
On, that's
and it did. I mean, I think it helped. I don't know that it. Well, I don't know. I think it did some stuff downtown. I definitely wouldn't say that it did nothing. But the problem with the DC conversation, at least for me, the way I see it, we don't have. Other municipalities have less challenges than we do, and I know that sounds like a cop-out. Oh, you just want people to feel sorry for Hamilton. No, I truly believe that number one, our ability to pay is a lot less than the municipalities that we get compared to. Like, Vaughan waived all their DCs and now they're building stuff. Okay, well, let's talk about how much money Vaughan spends on social services because they're all tied in. Like, you can't just have a conversation about DCs.
In isolation.
You got to have a conversation about what our challenges are in the city. So when we're spending, $100, $200 million on social services and Burlington, Oakville, Vaughan, all these comparables don't, well, where are we going to get the money? So, hey, let's give them a break on DCs. Okay, well, we got to find that revenue somewhere. Yeah, but we're going to expand transit. We're going to go crazy on transit because we need transit. Transit's important. Okay, we're also going to help the unsheltered community. We're going to help the low-income community. Well, at some point, something has to give.
But that's a separate pot, Mike. The DCs don't take into consideration. Like, DCs is a separate little fiefdom, and it shouldn't take into consideration. I don't know if it takes in social services, right? It's for infrastructure and what have you. So that's a separate it's a separate microcosm within the city.
But you got to find so if you're losing that revenue on the DC side. So if I don't,
but that DC money should never have gone.
Well, it doesn't go there. It doesn't go there, but. Eventually you only have so much money. So if you're using reserves to help with your social services and you're reducing your DC income, like, everything is like there's no money left. So if we want to do something, you've blown your reserves over here. You're reducing the DCs that are coming in. Well, you still have to build the infrastructure.
But if we reduce the DCs and projects are viable, then there's long-term income from tax revenue. I think there's a give and take.
Yes, balance. It goes back to the balance. I think we can do something because we want people working.
But the DCs is its own little microcosm. It's its own little thing. It should be operating on its own, and that leads me to, do you think the city of Hamilton is way, from a governance model, is just way too, ornery, in a sense? Do you think we legacy stuff and we just, this whole, is it just,
It's hard. Listen, I'm a rookie, right? So I sometimes I forget that I've only been there for 3 years and I got a lot.
But you've moved mountains, my friend. You've had little more impact. No, you've had more impact. I think in the social context, in people's minds and hearts, you've had a lot of impact more than you know, right?
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the DC thing. If we can get people back to work, if it's going to benefit the city in other ways, then, and we did, listen, at the end of the day, we did do some, we reduced DCs. I can't remember the number. I was the chair of the AFNA. I should remember this, Audit and Finance Committee. And we did a reduction in DCs. Obviously, we put a time limit on it. I don't know that it's going to move the needle just because, we didn't go to zero, but I think we reduced it by 20%. And you could stack them on some other. The provincial government has some DC stuff they're doing on 2 and 3 bedroom rentals and that sort of stuff. So you could stack those things on. But I don't know that we have, if we went to, I guess the question would be, if we went to 0% DCs, do we think everybody would start going to market on their developments when, are there going to be people that can afford those houses?
Yeah, you're right. Affordability is a key thing.
Right.
And sometimes I think, what the builders are building isn't really what the audience is all about. They built little glass boxes in the sky, and now they're building little boxes, stacked boxes on the ground. I don't know if the market for that anymore. I think that micro condo, or you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Will it move the needle? Will it have some sort of an impact? And again, I said Vaughan. We don't know exactly, but I think a lot of builders and a lot of people in the community feel there's something to it. I work with Options for Homes, which is it's a group out of Toronto, and then they started developing throughout the province. It's more of it would be more of instead of the DC relaxing, like no DC. They did projects in Toronto where the DCs was put in a second mortgage, they didn't have to pay any payments on it. It was put into a second mortgage, and when the person sold the property, the municipality shared in the same upside as the consumer did, proportionate to their share.
Yes.
So if the DCs were 10%, they got whatever return on their money, and it was just like a way to defer the DCs,
cost, yeah.
but the municipality eventually got the DCs with a return on their investment in majority of cases. Yeah. So there's other ways to do this. I think we have to be, I think 2026 should be this time that we have to be a little bit more creative.
Think out of the box
and how we do things. Like, look, I understand we need the money for infrastructure. I'm just postponing it a little bit, and there's ways, like a lot of times those consumers didn't want to share with the municipality. There were people that bought in Toronto. They said, I don't want to share anymore with the city of Toronto. I'm going to refinance and I'm going to get that second mortgage taken out. And then they get paid up to that certain amount of time, and the corporation, the city, will get their money. I just think there's just a little bit more to this. I think we have to be a little bit more. I think we can serve various audiences in terms of that and make this really, really happen.
The balance, right? I think it all goes back to just the balancing act. And again, on the thing on the DCs, I think even if there wasn't a reduction in DCs or not a crazy reduction in DCs, why aren't we looking to? I think the development community would be extremely happy if we could speed up the process.
Yeah, you're right.
Because if you speed up the process, the DCs are definitely a topic, but I think speeding up the process from the minute they start to not having to fight OLT, lawyers, you think of all the other costs we are compounding onto development.
Yep.
I think if we could get them site plan approved and get them to build a permit ready, I think that would help. But I think right now they're getting killed on DCs. The timelines are bad. The market's bad. It's just, everything's bad, and if we need to be helping, not adding to the.
And I think that's a mindset thing too. And I think it's we deal with people that are underwater in their homes and power sales and stuff like that. And I see it. We're seeing at the end. If everybody gives a little, right? Like the banks. They usually draw a hard line. They say, if the realtor gives a little, and the second mortgagee everybody gives a little, cut down this, down the, and then we end up getting a deal miraculously done, and there was a shortfall. I think there's this mindset though that I think if everybody's kind of all rowing in the same direction in some way, shape, or form, I think that's going to lead to something. Because I'm always at the home builders, and I'm always talking about that because I'm on the board there. I'll probably get kicked off after this, but anyway, I've been fighting for this thing. When you used to go to the gas station and would have this like pie graph, and it would say how much goes to the federal government, provincial, the taxes, right?
Yes.
Well, my thing was I always want to do that same pie graph, and if people realize that a townhouse let's say $1 million townhouse, that when you take all the taxes, it was $250,000, and who got, like, the city of Hamilton got like 80 or whatever, right? People would say to me, hey, wait a minute, this is what? Like, this is really what's happening here?
Yeah.
And I know it has to go to infrastructure, but a lot of people can't understand, when we're talking about infill, I think that whole DC thing has got to be revamped. And I know it doesn't come from you. That's
it's a provincial.
That's a provincial thing. But you can reduce it, right?
Yes.
You can reduce it. I think there's just some more time and effort. I think just people have to feel that it's fair. I think it's fair. Like, a lot of people leaving Canada because they don't think it's fair. The taxes aren't fair. So I think if consumers thought things were fair and equitable, and that we're getting something for our money, I think that would change the mindset. It may be just symbolic. It may be just symbolic.
It may be right now, yeah. With the market we have, it may just be a symbolic thing. But two things for me. One, I think you're bang on with the fact that I think everybody is consumed with fighting each other. So when you talk about everybody giving a little bit, making a deal, the banks, everybody coming together to find a way to help get this power of sale or what, help this deal happen.
Yeah.
I think we've gotten away from making deals. I think right now it's everybody goes in their corner, puts on their boxing gloves, and everybody fights.
Yeah.
And you got activism. You can say, well, I'm an activist for this. I support this. You can support what you believe in, but that doesn't mean you can't come to the table and come to an agreement and do what's best for the whole, right? So when you look at the city of Hamilton, you can hate a developer. You can, like, at the end of the day, let's stop worrying about what you like. I hate this and this is wrong and you don't understand and infrastructure. Let's get to the table, have a conversation, and meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Because you staying on this side saying no, 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 them staying on that side saying everybody in their corner, like I said, just with their hands up, ready to fight. What do we get? What are we accomplishing? Yeah, we aren't You look at some of the best things this city's done. I think TD Coliseum's a perfect example. Well, what? It's a partnership. There's municipalities. There was a local group. There's a global group. A group of people came together, including the municipality. I think the province put some, a small amount of money, but we came to the table. We worked together. You look, the hockey arena on Mountain Brow, same thing. It's public land. We brought in a private company. They build it. We paid for it. They paid it back.
Yeah, private-public partnerships are fantastic.
That's what you got to look at, right? And I think we got to put the gloves down. Put the gloves down, and let's start doing what's best for the citizens, as opposed to what the most important thing is to you as an individual. Yeah. And until we get there, we're just going to keep fighting each other.
Well, it's interesting, and all I'm saying is that I agree with that. I think that DC, even the DC deferral program, instead of the deferral going to the builder, it should flow to the consumer, the end user, that kind of thing. I think there's different service models and things like that. And speaking of that, you just instituted something, and I don't want to get the word wrong. It's IMATR. No, is that such a thing? It's some sort of online way that consumers in your ward or like residents.
iMatter?
Yeah, iMatter. That's right. Yeah. iMatter. Sorry.
So, iMatter was something that I did early on in my. And I know that Burlington as well as some there's a bunch of councillors around the province that are doing it. It's just a way for people to engage more if they'd like. I think it's growing. It's still in its early stages, but I'm just, for me, I was looking at finding as many different ways for people to be able to contact me.
Excellent.
Because social media, some people like it. Some people don't. Facebook, Instagram, my website, call the office, email the office. It was just another, pin in the wheel that people, if they use it, they use it. And I mean, it's got some traction, not a ton, but anything I can do to help people get in touch with me and interact, and I'm willing to do that.
Yeah. And let's talk about the realtor community. Like, what advice do you have for us in terms of this? And you laugh.
All right.
In terms of us as an advocacy group, because look, I know there's been a lot of, the registry and all that kind of stuff. And I've been a little bit vocal, and I think I called the council tone deaf when they wanted to do the double land transfer tax. Like, I just, like, what do you have for us? And I know we seem like we're always cap in hand, but at the end of the day, we're servicing consumer base, your consumer base, investors and landlords. Maybe some of the landlords don't live here, but they've invested here. Some of this stuff is a bit onerous and
yeah, I don't know that I would have advice. The only thing I would say from a standpoint of trying to remember what you said at the beginning of not the hand amp, like I don't know that the realtor, I would say, community is a problem. I think that some of the stuff we put in, I don't agree with either. So
okay, gotcha.
We might be on the same page. On some things. You know, I don't mind there was the short term rental.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Thing that we put in. I've seen that around. It's even smaller communities like Tobermory's got. And again, I know why they do it because there's a lot of
all over North America, there, right? all over North America.
There's some things that were good. I think that again, we look at landlords and investors as bad, like they're bad. And again, it goes back to what I said. Everybody's in their corner, ready to smash you in the face because they don't agree with you and they don't care what your insight might be, what you're doing, what the benefits are of what you're doing. It's because, did you hear about that one landlord that did this? And then every landlord gets painted with the same pitch. So I think people need to understand. Hey, listen, I'm a landlord. I declare a conflict at city council when I have to, but landlords provide housing for people.
Yeah.
We sit around the table. Everybody wants to yell and scream about, housing, lack of housing. Well, housing is so bad. Well, did you ever think if it wasn't for landlords, how much worse housing would be?
Oh, yeah, it'd be
Do you
terrible.
think people can just go pick up and buy that property? They can't. The reason some people don't buy the properties because they can't afford to. So, again, I think we need to stop hating on it.
Yeah.
Like, we just hate on each other. Real estate, they just take money from, why are they charging so much on realtor fees? And, why are landlords charging so much for rent? Well, everybody's got bills to pay.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know what the real estate community can do differently. I think you got to advocate. You got to talk to counselors. You got to come and delegate. Vacant unit tax is another thing that came up, which, I mean, I wasn't in favor of it. They're saying it's going to create this.
No, we've done the numbers. It's very I've done the numbers. I've recorded.
I'm glad
video.
you've done them too.
I've done the numbers, and I
me.
can tell you that the vacancies, and I've looked at the MLS. We've not seen an increase in vacant homes. The reason if there was any increase in vacant homes is because it's much easier to sell without a tenant, because of the landlord, and that's a separate issue altogether. But we didn't see this, a huge amount. We've got a lot of unsold inventory on our board.
Yeah,
we
decrease. And I think the plan for us from a vacant unit tax, or the policy that was brought forward was, let's put a tax in. So if you have a vacant unit, you're gonna list it to either sell or to rent. And we hired a bunch of people.
Yeah,
we're charging. So I own a property. My tenant moved out, and now I'm gonna get charged for owning this property. And the only way I don't get charged is if I rent it back out. Well, again, I think we've created the rental scene is another, with the board at the province, I can't remember, the landlord and tenant.
Yeah. Landlord tenant board. Yep.
Yeah, there's issues there, backlog. So I mean, we're forcing people to rent their home even though they don't want it.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
That's not our job. Again, as a municipality.
Exactly.
It's not my job to say to you, hey, you have an extra home and it's empty right now? You better put someone in there.
Yeah, there's circumstances. Now you're playing with capitalism and the whole bit.
We're not in. It's not our job to be in your home.
Yeah. Why can't the city of Hamilton look? There's a lot of other factors, and again, some people don't want to rent because of the Landlord-Tenant Act. Why wouldn't Hamilton try to become this brand? Like we're gonna be a partner with the landlord and the tenant. Okay, and this is what I'm thinking. I'm talking about an amnesty. Let's say we had an amnesty, because there's a lot of units that are duplexes, and there's a illegal third unit, whatever. I'm not talking about a blanket amnesty. I'm talking about an amnesty program that starts to educate landlords as to how can they come out of the shadows with these units, and how can we do something put in place where we can make those units legal? That's the question I get all the time. What are my chances of getting this thing legal? Like, are you kidding me? Like, and the thing is, the first thing you don't want to do is tell them you have this unit, and then you're going to lose the income. So it's a chicken and egg. So this is an education with coupled with an amnesty, and maybe this is something that part of that accelerator program where we're going to help get more units, because there is a lot of units that are illegal. Bar none. And as a matter of fact, you'd be surprised, Mike, but there are lenders that don't care if it's legal. They are now starting to lend on the income from the third unit that's illegal. So when you got the lender community doing that, why is the city of Hamilton so far behind? You know what I'm talking?
I think it's an approach. I think, it goes back to what the focus is of the city and what we're willing to do, thinking outside of the box. Like maybe things that worked 20 years ago don't work now. And again, it goes back to we have these relationships with groups that they're not healthy relationships. It's an adverse relationship. It's always about, this is how it is. There's no let's work to try to get you to a position where we're going to make it affordable for you to fix this unit and make it legal. And it might not meet the new criteria of 2026, but if you meet these minimums that we feel it's safe for someone to be in there, let's get you approved so we don't use that. We want to force people to rent out their vacant home, but we don't want to work with people that already have someone living in their house that don't want to move. Doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense.
Find the middle.
Yes.
I balance. I keep repeating myself.
I know. But how do we bring balance to City Hall? I remember there was a book in the 80s was You Can't Fight City Hall. It was in my head, and I remember I wrote a letter to the mayor at the time. It was McDonald, and I wrote a letter to him, and I read the book, and I was in grade school, and I remember writing the book, and I'm saying, is this true? Like, come on, you can't be. This is for us, a municipality. It's in our DNA. It's about the people. It's about everybody together and moving forward. Can you get how do you strike that balance?
It's difficult because I think, at least with this term of council, and I can only speak for the one that I'm sitting in, we're pretty divided.
Yeah.
Right. So we're divided. The community is divided. We got to get to a point again where everybody's at the table and everybody's willing to give a little bit. And until we get there, it's going to be hard to move forward. We're going to be spinning our wheels, one step forward, two back. We're now what does the next council do? Do they start peeling back some of the stuff we did this term? We're definitely going to have to change our spending habits. So what does that do? We've made certain areas with all this investment. When you start peeling it back, well, what's going to happen? Right? So did we waste that money? Right? Now what do we do? So I think we're at a crossroads as a city, in my opinion. I think number one, you got to get back to basics. That's until we do that, we're never going to find our way. Let's reprioritize and refocus where we need to be, and that is roads, sidewalks, parks.
Stay in your lane.
Treatment plant, like the water, police. And let's get real good at that.
Let's hunker down on that.
And once we get real good at that, then let's listen to our community, not some of our community, not the community that I'm friends with. Let's listen to the community as a whole, and then slowly move forward from there. But right now, we just want to do everything,
which is crazy.
And you can't.
You can't. No, you got to focus. This is a time of focus. So do you think notionally it's part of the Hamilton situation or Greater Hamilton? It's in our DNA with the amalgamation. Do you think that has to that's because we've always had this divided? You got this ring of those outskirt communities that were brought in, and then the core, and there's always been this divide. Even when you look at the voting for the mayor, for instance, across the city, you see this peripheral voted one way, and then the core the other. And do you have any advice to what's happening in Niagara? Do you want to weigh it? Because listen, our listeners are in Niagara. Our offices go from Fort Erie all the way to Oakville. So, do you have any advice for Niagara and all this?
Well, I mean, amalgamation was around what, 2000?
Yeah. Because we had Marvin Ryder recently, So talking about.
I mean, I can tell you, there's still people that talk about the fact that they don't, they weren't crazy about amalgamation then. They're not crazy about amalgamation now, and again, that feeds the fire. You want to talk about a community that's not all rowing in the same direction. I don't know that we've taken on the new city of Hamilton, right? Because it's the new city of Hamilton, because before we had the city of Hamilton and town of Ancaster, Flamborough, all that stuff. But the new city of Hamilton, I don't know that it's been 25 years, and I don't know that we've all come together as one and said we are one city. Yeah. And I think there's things that happen at City Hall that still are, I think some of the planning in Ancaster is different than the planning in
that whole
Stony
thing.
Creek, and we have the area rating conversation about, well, the inner city wards get some money because they have less transit. There's a lot of stuff that's still lingering from amalgamation. I think it's just another piece that hurts us at times when it comes in as a distraction when things aren't good. And right now, because things aren't good, it just you hear more about it. The Niagara piece, I don't know. It's hard, right? Like, we got our own problems down here. You guys worry about that, but I think the province will do what the province wants to do, because at the end of the day, the one thing people, I think, don't realize as much is we're creatures of the province.
Yeah. No, you're right.
At the end of the day, we're not the boss. Yeah. We think we're the bosses, but the province can come in at any time and do what they think is the best thing for the municipality.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I understand they can mandate, but symbolically, I would say. So I do a weekly video. Yeah. So I have busy days. I normally do on Friday, but I did it yesterday, and I was trying to find a sign to say Hamilton, right? The Hamilton sign, like the Hamilton sign. So I just Googled where a Hamilton sign was, and I was in Aldershot, and I said, you know what? There's one up Waterdown Road.
Okay.
Waterdown Road, and it's Waterdown Road in Mountain Brow, and it said it on Google, right? So I thought, fine, I'm going to find it. So here I am, and there's a lot of construction there, tons and tons of construction. Just they're doing a whole bunch of stuff. So I kind of drove past it because I had to get out of the way. Anyway, I turn around, and I see the sign from behind. I do a U-turn. I park down this little inlet, and I go there. I take my camera, and I'm all ready. I'm ready to go, full of piss and vinegar. Yep. And I see it. What is it? What does the sign say? Brand new, blue, shiny sign, Waterdown. And so it was.
Is there anywhere I can hide under the table here?
It was the first thing. Like, it was probably the first thing that they fixed when they did this road widening or whatever on that street there on Waterdown Road. Then I had to drive to where the Rock is, where the entrance on York, right? And I had to go to that sign. Come on.
Yeah.
This is our opportunity. Again, the new city, whatever you want to call it. Let's just shed this thing. Let's be all rowing in the same direction, and let people see. I think people have to see something, and I think it starts with being cohesive. Because it's unfortunate.
I don't disagree with it. And I think for some people it's like, well, we don't want to lose the history of those. And I don't think anybody wants that history to go away. I think history is important. And I think we can celebrate the history of Waterdown or the town of Ancaster or Stony Creek and Winona. I still think that's important. But at the end of the day, we're the city of Hamilton.
Yes.
We can have all sorts of events that can acknowledge and celebrate the history. But until we all get on the same page that we are Hamilton, we're going to do what's best for Hamilton, and we're going to be on a level playing field across the city, it's going to be hard to move forward as one. We'll move forward in certain things that we agree on as a city, but then as soon as it's something that not everybody agrees on, we're going to get the separation again. Yeah. Where it's like, well, no, we don't want that. Up here in this area, we don't want it. So we got a lot of challenges, right? Yeah. And right now, if that was our only challenge, I think we'd be in good shape. But it's
symbolic. It starts with something. Yeah. So let's talk about and we'll wrap this up. And I really appreciate your time today.
This has been great.
Yeah. So let's talk about what are your proudest accomplishments? You know what? You came in, you hit the ground running. I love your style. I know the integrity commissioner wants you to pull back a little bit, but I love it. Go for it. But what I'm like, so what are you the most proud of in your tenure in Ward 14 right now? What are you?
Yeah, I think it's just being elected. First off, was pretty special, right? Just being a kid that grew up in the ward, and then, all everywhere in the ward, and then to be the person that gets to represent the people in that ward, that was a pretty cool feeling. And then just, I think we invested a lot of money in the ward. We I redid 3 or 4 parks right off the hop, and just trying to get communities' roads redone. And we have a sidewalk program every year that there's X amount of dollars in it, and I would they'd come to me, I have money in my minor maintenance. Let me give you more, like anything, so that the residents. For me, it was about, I want the residents to see that their money's going somewhere.
Yeah.
And if I could redo a park again for family and children, I got 3 young children. Park's everything. Even, and then you look at the senior citizens in my ward, they go to the park, they sit at the bench.
Yeah,
they love watching kids enjoying their life because it brings them back to their youth. So these were things that right off the hop for me were a focus. Let's get parks redone, as many as we possibly can, because that's probably the most important thing in the ward.
Yeah.
Roads and sidewalks from a safety standpoint. And I think just being a voice, and then being a voice for my residents.
Okay.
Having them reach out, whether it was a phone call, an email, telling them, just saying thank you. I'd get and just they'd put a topic of what we talked about that day and just said thank you. So that's what I think makes it easy for me to go to work every day, just knowing that I represent people that I grew up living with, and
which is amazing.
They're seeing that they're getting something from their counselor, and that's all I really like. That's what I do it for. I'm not. This isn't for me. I mean, it's for me because I want to help the community.
Yeah,
but
you're people.
I want to help.
Political life is service. So, I'm not sure. Have you declared you're running, or is this something I can't talk about?
You can ask me whatever you want. I can always decline to answer.
Well, look. Let's say you have. You're going to be running again, right? Let's just say, what would Mike Spadafora 2.0 Ward 14 councillor look like? Paint us a picture.
Oh, man. Well, hopefully the integrity commissioner will be less involved in the 2.0, but I'm afraid he might be more involved. I think my first 2 years on council, I was pretty quiet, and over the years, just on some of the different things I've done in my life, the one piece of advice that it took me a while to get to, but I started to understand, and it definitely helped this time around, was just listen at the beginning. Don't talk. Listen. Find your way, learn, and then, once you're comfortable and you think you've heard enough, start talking. So I took the first 2 years to just listen, learn, watch, and then obviously, as you've mentioned, I've become vocal over the last year and a half. So I would say, if I am back in a position around that table, I'm probably not going to take 2 years to listen. I think you'll see that I will come out of the gate pretty energetic and wanting to make things better right off the start. I think I have a better idea, especially in Ward 14. I think I know now better than I did, obviously, 3.5 years ago, what the ward needs, what it continues to need. And again, it'll be basics for me. That's the easy part. Like, you can't really screw it up. The basics are the basics, right? But and I think just pushing back, more pushing back, more commitment and respect for taxpayers and their money, and holding people accountable. I mean, it's not something people really like, but I don't do it because I have a personal vendetta against anybody. Holding people accountable and making sure they're doing their job and doing it in the best interest of the taxpayer. If people don't like that, they're just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah. Do you think you sound like you're a person about systemic change, and we need some, and it's time. So the clock is running out. Do you feel you can move the needle on some systemic change? Do you think you can garner support around that table? The current players around the table, can you see you having effect on systemic change going forward, or do you think we're going to need a little bit of a reshuffle? Like I'm asking you to kind of give us something where we can empower the voters of Hamilton. If they want to see systemic change, what should they be asking at the door, and what should they be really concerned with going forward?
I would say, first off, the biggest change that needs to happen is people need to take municipal politics more serious. Voter turnout is a perfect way to look at where people believe the importance is when they're voting. And I'm not saying the federal and provincial government elections aren't important. They're all important.
Yeah.
But you see a drastic drop off when you look at municipal elections.
Which is crazy
So,
because that's the closest we get to.
yeah, it's the one that affects your pocket right away.
Immediately, and I feel it every day. I'm walking on the street. There's a pothole, whatever.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But I think people need to get out and vote.
Yep.
Number one, and you need to know the candidate you're voting for.
Mm-hmm.
You got to educate yourself, and that's the only way we're going to get the change people want. But if you're just going to sit in the sidelines or I'm not going to vote. What's it matter? My vote doesn't matter. The same people always win. We had 10 new people come into council this term. So that whole, it's always the same people, that narrative's gone.
Yep.
At the end of the day, learn who the candidates in your ward are. Understand and make sure you understand what they're really about, truly about. And if you don't ask the questions, you're not going to know. Because just because they put something on their pamphlet, it's not always how they're going to, and you have to look back at what they've done. If it's an incumbent, what have they done the last 4 years? Do you agree with what they've done? Are they the best person to move the city forward? And go out and vote.
Is there a place where you can see voting patterns? You can like, really easily accessible for voters.
Easily accessible?
Not really.
Not
No,
really.
it is.
Like you're
That's
going on the
unfortunate.
website.
I'd love to see some sort of a list or like that kind of thing. It would be really helpful to consumers. I think we have to really educate consumers.
Absolutely.
Like I have to say one thing. Like and I've talked to some politicians in my day, and I wouldn't consider you a politician. You're a non-politician, if I can say that.
Definitely not a career politician.
You're not a career politician. But if there's somebody that embodies or is symbolic about my vote matters. It's got to be you because you've taken this, local vision and you've taken this global vision of the municipality, with your cost cutting and all that kind of thing and helping your, local constituents. You are living proof that voting matters. And I think the people of Ward 14 should be super, super proud of your track record. And you put your neck out and you try to help, right? And it's coming through. So I want to thank you for your time today.
Yeah, no,
and
this
thank you
was
for
great.
being so candid.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the candid conversation.
There's no integrity commissioner.
No, as a matter of fact, no.
We're good.
We block out the integrity
good.
commissioner. We didn't mention any names.
So I'm not have to apologize to
Yeah,
this.
no, that's it. So, I really appreciate your you were super candid, open, and again, that's what this is all about. It's compound interest and what people are interested in, and we're interested in what you think and what you're going to do, and hopefully, hopefully you do continue, and then we get to see 2.0 coming soon to Hamilton Council. So,
Awesome.
thank you,
Well,
my
thanks,
friend. Really
Robert, for
appreciate
having
it.
me. This
Appreciate
was
it.
great, and back anytime you need some more candid stuff, I'd be back.
Okay,
So thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.